blessing may be recited over the no blessing may be recited over the light or spices of Gentiles, and not over the light and spices used for the dead, and not over the light and spices placed before idols, and no blessing is recited before the candle is the candle until benefit is derived from its light. If one died but forgot to recite the grace, Beit Shammai says he must return to his place and recite. Basil says he may recite the grace after meals where he remembered. Till when may he say the grace? Till the food is digested in the stomach, approximately 72 minutes. If a cup of wine is served them after the meal and there is no other cup but this, Beit Shammai says he recites the blessing over the wine and afterwards over the food. Basil says he recites the blessing over the food and afterwards over the wine. One responds with amen to the blessing of an Israelite, but one does not respond with amen at the blessing of a Kutian unless one has heard the entire blessing. Right.
Okay. Somebody sees a place where miracles happened for Israel. Omer Baruch she'asa nisim la'avoseinu b'makom hazeh. There's one notable place where people go to say this bracha, which is by the Yarden. There's a known place where Yehoshua led the people across the Yarden, and you can go there and make the bracha at that point. Um,
People do that today, you're saying?
yes, people do that today. There's,
Really?
there's a spot by the Yarden. I actually haven't been to that spot, but it is apparently a known place where people will go to make this bracha. Makom she'ne'ekra mimenu avodah zara, omer baruch she'akar avodah zara mi'artzeinu. Right, there was a base avodah zara there, and now it's been knocked down. There's a special bracha to make on that. I don't know any such places. I wonder if you could do that in any places like where they've blown up mosques or stuff like if it's, but Islam is not technically avodah zara, but the version where you worship somebody who wants you to go and murder civilians,
Right.
doesn't, you know. Anyway, that's my speculation, and we'll leave that out of the halacha.
Right.
Mishnah base. Al hazikin v'al hazvaos. So thunder and lightning. Sorry, zikin. Okay, that's. Beg your pardon. Zikin. Kahati says is a shooting star.
Or they call it a comet. It's basically the
Comet.
same, I guess. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I suppose that would be a comet would make sense. Yes. Um, a comet is a meteorite. Have you seen those when a bit of
Right.
debris comes through the atmosphere and you see the streak of light going through briefly? That's okay. Asvaos. Um, um, Actually, I think the shooting stars is a different bracha than what's said over here. Al Asvaos
Mm.
al Brakim on thunder, and Brakim is lightning, and Ramim is thunder. Oh, Zvaos is earthquake.
Earthquakes, right.
Right. Um, Omer Baruch shekochak v'rosam alei olam. So that's the one that your typical use case and most common use case is for thunder. You say Baruch shekochak v'rosam alei olam. But also you would say the same thing on earthquakes and on interesting that comets is listed over here because I've always said Ose Maaseh Berachos, which is what we're coming on with mountains now. Mountains, ala harim, ala yamim. So when you see particularly impressive works of creation that are static,
Mhm.
you're not seeing anything, but just something that's just wondrous in nature. You would say Baruch Hashem Maseh Bereshis. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Haroeh es hayam hagadol Omer Baruch she'asai es hayam hagadol. When you see the ocean. The bracha is a separate one. It's not just Osei Maaseh Bereshis. There's a special one for Osei Hayam Gadol. Bizman sheroeh oso leprakim. But that's only if you're not living on the coast. If you're waking up every morning and looking at the sea, you don't make a new bracha every day. It's only when there's the 30 days is considered like a time when you are when it feels new to you. Okay. And that is the halacha. Ala geshamim ala besoras tova. So when good things happen that are good for multiple people. Omer baruch hatov hametiv. Right? Tov for me, and hametiv and for other is for other people. Well, shmos ra'os omer baruch emes. And you also say a bracha if bad things happen. Interesting. The Mishnah makes it shows us a little thing in the language. We say besoros tovos. Um, is where you hear good news. That's actual good news. Shmos Raus is when you hear rumors. Right, a shmua is something that I'm not sure. But there's a besora and there's a shmua, but it sounds to me like a besora is something that is more vadai,
Uh,
and a shmua is something that's like rumors. And I think it's not so much about the fact of I don't know. I don't know. I'm kind of speculating over here. And I think it's like you're not supposed to go around telling bad news.
right.
Um, when there's good news, spread it far and wide, sing it on the mountains when there's good news to tell. Okay, when there's bad news, you don't want to tell it unless you actually have to. So I think that's why it's coming out as Shmua Strauss, because like you hear mumblings, rumors, and whatever that things are not so good, and you say, yeah, yeah, so and so was niftar, or anyways, um, Bana Bais Chadash. The guy builds a new house with kana kelim chadashim, or he bought new clothing. Omer baruch shechianu. So it's a good thing for him personally that he's got this new thing, and as he takes possession of it or uses it for the first time, he can say shechianu. Mavarech ala ra'a me'ein hatova. By the way, that's that if it's a house just for him. If it's for him and his family, his children, whatever, that's a tova metiv because it's for other people.
Oh, right.
Clothing for sure is a shechianu. Nobody else is getting benefit from your clothing. Okay. Mavarech ala ra'a me'ein hatova, va'ala tova me'ein hara'a. And you 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 have to make a bracha on things even when they are ambiguous. So, for example, if there's a ra'a me'ein hatova, there's uh, for example, we're saying that if there's a big flood, um, that destroys this year's crop, but he knows that that's actually going to make things better for next year's crop because everything's irrigated and fertilized and whatever. So even though we've lost this one, it's going to be a good one next year. But nonetheless, now it's a Dayan MS.
Mhm.
And ala tova me'en the opposite is like he comes into a large amount of money, but now he's concerned that what's going to be in the future. Like people are going to realize that I'm rich. They're going to report on me to the government. The government's going to come and want to take taxes, and I'm going to be more of a more prominent. But nonetheless, you look at what's here, and it's a tova meitiv or it's a shechianu, whichever the case is, and leave the future to be what the future will be. Tzorek l'she'avar, harei zot tfilas shav. If somebody prays for something that's happened in the past, that's a tfilas shav. It's a wasted prayer and a vain prayer.
Right.
Okay, what's the example of this? Ketzad Haisa ishto me'uberes. His wife is visibly pregnant. V'amar yehi ratzon sheteled ishti zachar. He wants a boy, and he starts praying that his wife should give birth to a boy. That's a vain prayer. The baby is already a fact inside his wife's womb. Okay, and the sex is already determined by this stage. Okay, Reza Tfilas Shav. Baba Derech. He's coming back home and he comes into the city, Vashama called Tzvacha Ba'ir, and he hears a whole tumult and people wailing and thinking, oh my gosh. And he davens, Hashem, please let that not be coming from my house. Well, that's too late. That
Right.
it either is or it isn't. But and Rambam also points out that even davening for a nace, that it should for example the baby like say look it might be a girl but if it is even if it is a girl please make a nace and turn it into a boy. That you don't daven for that.
Right.
You can only daven for things like that are like al derech hateva. Okay. Um yeah, I think that's it.
So we are on to Hey Gimel.
Hey Gimel.
If one says your mercy extends even to birds' nests, and for the good which you do to us shall but your name be remembered. We give thanks, we give thanks. He is silenced. If he went before the ark and erred, another shall take his place. He may not decline at such a time. From where does he begin? From the beginning of the bracha where he fell into error. Um, Whoever goes before the ark shall not answer Amen after the Kohanim, because he might become confused. If no Kohen is present except him, he must not raise his hands. But if he is confident that he can raise his hands to resume his tefillah, he is permitted. If one commits an error in his recitation of the tefillah, it is a bad omen for him. And if he is a congregational reader, it is a bad omen for those who sent him, because a man's agent is as himself. They said of Rabbi Hanina ben Dosa that he would pray for the sick and say, "This one will live and this one will die." They asked him, "How do you know?" And he said to them, "If the prayer is fluent in my mouth, I know he is accepted, and if not, I know that he is rejected."
Okay.
And on to Eliyom. Gimel base. Regarding a vegetable of truma who, with a beaten egg are placed on top of it, and a tevel yom will touch the egg, he is rendered puzzle only the stalk opposite him. Rabbi Yossi says he renders puzzle the entire upper layer. However, if the egg is like a helmet, there is no connection. Regarding a streak of egg that was baked onto the walls of a pan and a tevel yom touched it from the rim and inward, it is a constant connection. It is a connection. From the rim and outward, it is not a connection, and Rabbi Yossi says the streak and all that peel off with it. The same ruling applies to legumes that form the crust on the edge of a pot. A dough that became a demu mixture is that was leavened with sourdough of truma is not rendered puzzle by the touch of a tevel yom, but by Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shimon rule it puzzle. Regarding a dough that was rendered susceptible to tumor by a beverage and was kneaded with fruit juice, and a tevel yom touched it, with Elazar ben Yehuda, leader of Bartosa, says in the name of Rabbi Yeshua, the tevel yom has rendered puzzle the entire dough. Rabbi Akiva says in Rabbi Yeshua's name, he has rendered puzzle only the place he touched.
Okay. Toros.
Regarding,
Toros.
oh, if the outsides of the utensils become tummy through contact with tummy liquid, Reb Eliezer says they are conveying tumor to liquids, but they cannot render foods unfit. Reb Yeshua says they can convey tumor to liquids and they can render foods with unfit. Shimon, the brother of Azariah, says neither this nor that. Rather, liquids that have become tummy from the outsiders of utensils can convey tumor to one, which can then render another one unfit. Thus, one says, that which conveys tumor to you cannot convey tumor to me, that you can convey tumor to me. If there's a kneading trough that is on the and a klein, and there's dough on top and batter containing liquid that can moisten on the bottom, these three pieces that equal an egg's volume do not combine, but two do combine. Rabbi Yossi says even two doughs do not combine unless they press liquid. If the liquid was standing, the liquid was standing even if each piece of dough was like the size of a mustard seed, they combine. And Rabbi Yossi says separated pieces of food do not combine. If a stick is covered with tamei liquids, once it makes contact with a mikveh, it is tahor. These are the words of Reb Meir. These are the words of Reb Yeshua. The comments say how unlily immerses it completely. A stream of liquid are flowing down a slope, and a liquid sufficient to moisten are not considered connection conveying tumor, nor for producing tumor. Liquid in a crevice is considered a connection for conveying. Okay. And Midos. The Temple Mount was 500 amos by 500 amos. The majority of the space was in the south. The second, the largest area, was in the east, and the third, the largest area, was in the north. The minority of space was in the west, and the area that had the greatest size also saw the most use. All those entering the Temple Mount entered toward the right and circled and exit toward the left, except for the one to whom something adverse occurred, for he would circle toward the left. Why are you circling toward the left? Because I am a mourner. May the one who dwells in this house comfort you. Because I was excommunicated, may the one who dwells in this house instill compassion into your colleagues' hearts, and that they should draw you close. These are the words of Rav Meir. Rav Yossi said to Rav Meir, you have made them out as if they overstep the bounds of the law. Rather, they should say, may he who dwells in this house instill reason into your heart, that you should hearken to the words of your colleagues, and they shall then draw you close. Inside of the Temple Mount with wall was a soreg, 10 handbreadths high, and there were 13 breaches in it. Breached by the Greek kings, the Jews once again fenced in those breaches and decreed 13 prostrations corresponding to them. Inside of the soreg was the Chayal, 10 amos long, and there were 12 steps there. The height of each step half an amma, and its tread half an amma. All the steps that were in the temple, the height of each step was half an amma, and its tread was half an amma, except for those of the antechamber. All the entryways and gateways that were there, their height was 20 amos and their width was 10 amos, except for that of the antechamber and all the entryways that were there that they had drawn. And all the entryways that were there had doors except for the out of the antechamber. All the gateways that were there had lintels except for the tiny gate, and there were two stones leaning upon each other. All the doors of the gateways that were there changed to gold, except for those at Nicola Gate became a miracle occurred, and with them, and some say because their copper shone. Okay.
Okay.
The three here.
And that's it, yeah.
Right. That's three.
Yeah.
Okay. And we are on to, let's see. If one moves the cast from one place to another and breaks it, whether he is an unpaid shomer or a paid shomer, he must swear. Rav Eliezer says, indeed, both must swear, but I wonder whether both can swear. If one's hired laborers and order them to work early and late in a place where there is customary not to work early and not to work late, he has no right to compel them. In a place where it is customary to give the workers food, he must give them food to provide relish. He must provide relish. Everything must be done according to the local custom. It once happened that Rabbi Yochanan ben Messiah said to his son, go out and hire laborers for us. He went and agreed to give them food. When he came to his father and said to him, my son, even if you prepare for them a meal like Solomon, a banquet at this time, you have not discharged your duty toward them, for they are children of Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov. Rather, before they start work, go out and say to them, on condition that you have no claim upon me, other than bread and beans, then Shimon ben Gamliel said he did not have to say everything according to the local custom. They may eat by virtue of the law of the Torah. One who works with produce attached to the ground at the time of the completion of the work, or with produce detached from the ground when its work is not yet completed. It's something that grows from the ground. They do not eat these do not eat. One who works with produce attached to the ground when the work is not completed, or when produce detached from the ground after the work has been completed, or with something that does not grow from the ground.
Okay. All right.
Test Aleph. One who was contaminated or was on a distant journey and had not observed the first Pesach must observe the second. If he erred or was prevented and therefore did not observe the first Pesach, he must observe the second. If so, why is it said one who was contaminated or one who was a distant journey? Because they're exempt from Kari. Those are liable to Kari. What is a distant journey? From Modi'in and beyond, or like distance in any direction. These are the words of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Eliezer says, from the threshold of the temple courtyard and beyond. Said Rabbi Yossi, therefore there is a dot over the letter A, as if to say not because it is literally distant, but rather from the threshold of the temple courtyard and beyond. What is the difference between the first Pesach and the second? The first Pesach comes under the prohibition of it shall not be seen and shall not be found, whereas the second Pesach, both matzah and chametz are with him in the house. The first requires the recitation of halal during the Pesach's eating, but the second does not require halal during its eating. Both require the recitation of halal when they are offered, and both are eaten roasted together with matzah and bitter herbs, and both override Shabbos.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
All right, good.
Beautiful Shabbos.
Have a great Shabbos. Enjoy. I'll see you Sunday.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.